Well, a very warm welcome back to Racing Back. I'm going to say the sun's coming up here in England. It's not coming up, but it's getting light. It's not snowing. It's not raining. Looking out of the window. Uh, no further ado, we're going to go back to Jerry Burgess in the lovely, warm, sunny hills above Adelaide in Australia. And what a start it was last week, Jerry. Thank you so much. We got through what? Graham Crosby, Randy Mamola, Freddie Spencer, Wayne Gardner, and we now come on to Mick Doohan. Now, I think Mick, from what I remember, was sort of riding production bikes in Australian races. Obviously, somebody spotted something to make him so special, and whoever it was that spotted him was pretty well got it right, didn't he or she?
Yeah, for sure. I think Mick riding production bikes, and then of course we had as we still do, the World Superbikes here, and I think at Oran Park, Mick consecutively broke the lap record somewhere between 10 and 20 times in a race. So I think people were looking, and that was on the Yamaha. And I remember going up to the end of '88, we went to Sugo for a race where I think Wayne found out that Eddie Lawson was coming on board the next year.
I
Mick
remember
won the
that day
superbike.
well. Yeah.
Mick won the superbike race there, which was perhaps a Japanese championship superbike race, but Michael Dowson was there as well, another Australian. And Wayne was pretty down in the dumps because, of course, he heard the news just before leaving Heathrow that Eddie would be riding a Honda for 1989. And yeah, that was Mick in the beginning. And then I was sent over to Wintered, where they have a racetrack in Australia where Mick was still riding, to sort of show that we at Honda were behind him. And the first guy I walked into in the paddock was Warren Willing. And
Ah,
Warren said to me, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, I just come for a look." And Warren said, "Don't worry, he signed for you guys anyway." So, uh, that was the beginning of meeting Mick, and then taking him up to Japan for some testing in December uh, of '88. Yep, '88. And then, of course, we embarked on '89.
Such a different character to Wayne in almost every way, I think.
Yeah, I think, I mean, everybody's different, but there was rivalry there.
Oh, yeah,
Wayne was an Australian who'd won the championship. Mick was an up and coming. We'd already had Kevin McGee come over to Assen in '86 or '87 and qualify second on the grid. So he was another potential, serious challenger. So, Australia was coming alive, and naturally, I think Wayne could sense that there were good riders around, and he didn't want them stealing his thunder, as no sportsman does.
Indeed.
and not easy at the start for Mick, as I would imagine, because with so little experience at the higher level.
Yes, having never ridden a 500 before, having never seen any of the circuits, and I think being a rider put into a factory team with no experience was uh, a hell of a vote in confidence of what they believed he could do, and
Yeah,
perhaps a leap too far at that time for Mick. But it came together. Inevitably, it took time, but patience, and without the Assen accident in '92, probably would have come earlier. Perhaps even if we'd
certainly.
had uh, you know a different tyre situation again, where one year Kenny and Wayne Rainey were swapping between Dunlop and Michelin, and still getting the results. We stuck with Michelin when they pulled out from supplying full factory support, only to sort of come back in later and in that year and back us sort of 100%. But um, Mick was a rider who used the front tyre a lot more than the previous generation of riders, and he required a different tyre. But once we got that tyre, he and people like John Kaczynski, who were riding a different way to the Americans we knew, who were all sort of square it off and gas it up. The tyre technology was allowing more lean angle, more braking on angle into the corner, and this is what carried more corner speed, which was what Mick and I think even John Kaczynski to a degree wanted. So it was a turning point, and it took a little bit of time for Michelin to understand exactly how to go about providing the product that the riders needed, and that was the beauty of the system we had in those days, which we don't have to these days, that they could craft the tyre for the individual feeling of the rider and the sensitivity of the rider, and that is something I think we've lost a bit in the current form of MotoGP.
I recall you telling me many years ago that you felt your job was to make the rider's job easy, and you sum that up by saying make him comfortable, effectively. Is that...
Well, that's right. I mean, as I said earlier or last week in the program, having worked with intelligent riders, they complain about the biggest problem first. And every time Mick would, in those early days, was talking about the tyre, it was the front tyre that was not giving him what he needed. And Michelin is a brilliant company, and they worked with people like Jack Morelli and
yes,
a few of the others, and they started to understand and to build a tyre, then test it, improve it a little bit more. It's not a case of going from bad to good in one change of tyre. You have to sort of concepts with
many iterations,
profile, construction, materials. So it took time, but everybody's benefited from it since.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Sorry, Julian.
No, I was going to say this sounds like the start of the talk about the front tyre, the lean angle. This sounds like this is recognisable to today's paddock in many ways as the modern racing motorcycle setup.
Yeah, I mean the four strokes, still different. I think being heavier and having a different power characteristics, but certainly from sort of 1992 on, Mick was happy with the front tyre. He used, for example, a different front tyre to Kevin Schwantz. Kevin liked something, I think, that was more rigid in the carcass that gave him support under brakes, whereas Mick used something that gave him more feeling on the edge. So they both were able to achieve similar lap times, and they had different riding styles, but they both had different tyres. And I think the expectation today that give them all the same tyre, it'll be good. I think how I worked was to give the guy what he wanted, and if you give him what he wanted, my life was going to be a lot bloody easier than if I tried to swing him onto something that he didn't like.
Indeed. Yeah. But, that's the argument against the sort of the managed equality that regulations have gone to.
It's not equality.
It's like a good marriage, isn't it? You just say yes sometimes and just do it.
Well, Nick, to put it in a paragraph, I always said that Mick was right even when he was wrong. It wasn't worth the argument.
Yes.
You weren't going to win it. So
Mick, I was going to say, there's only one winner with an argument with Mick, wasn't there?
Well, that's right. And sometimes we'd prepare one bike that he wanted, and I'd prepare one that I thought might be better. And, he'd ride his, and I could never get him onto mine. And maybe the last 6 or 8 minutes of practice, he'd give it 2 or 3 laps. And if he said, yeah, that's not bad, we'd have it in the next practice session. But, he pushed his barrow the hardest for sure. Fantastic years working with Mick, unbelievable. And it's always a pleasure in this day and age to get around him. I probably only see him a couple of times a year, but it's all very good.
Good to hear.
And we come on to 92. Obviously, we were all involved. I was the media manager, you were the crew chief, and he was running away with the championship. And then came that afternoon in Assen, didn't it? And my golly, what a change in every way. Obviously, he crashed in qualifying, broke his leg, and then I think the decision had to be made, didn't it? That would he have the operation in Assen? Would he go to England or would he go to America?
Yeah, I think what happened in Assen was a compounding of errors.
Yeah.
A young rider wanting everything fixed as quick as possible. Perhaps a surgeon who really didn't want to perform that in the local Assen hospital, and then the problems that it compounded after that from lack of circulation and what have you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a very upsetting time, obviously for the team, but it carried on to '93 as well because Mick never fully recovered. His leg had a bow in it, like Robin Hood's bloody
Yeah.
Yeah.
bow and
Because,
arrow.
because I think one thing people often forget when discussing the Assen incident is that he hadn't been champion yet, and he was leading by an absolute street.
60 odd points, was it,
It was
Jerry? I
Yeah,
can't
massive
remember.
I
lead.
think I think 57 points, and
Oh,
Wayne Rainey
57.
was on a plane back to America at the
Yeah, he
time.
was. Yeah.
So, Mick openly says, that he rotated on the ground and actually put the spiral fracture just above his ankle,
Yes.
in his tibia, I guess it is. But yeah, you know, the fact that it was on, if you look at the videos or anything, you'll see that one of the French bikes returned to the pits with water leak coming out of the bottom of the cowling when Mick went down. So there was definitely something on the track at the time. So, but that could happen at any time to anyone. There'll always be injuries, and Mick, I think it just shows the sort of man that he is as to how he was able to overcome and adapt and go on to win 5 world titles.
Yeah. When he came back to Sao Paulo was truly amazing, wasn't it? Then Kyalami, he almost did it, didn't he? He almost won the title.
If that rain had stayed in Sao Paulo,
Yeah.
where he was 5th or 6th fastest in the rain, you wonder what would have happened. But it dried out. Eddie tried to help him a bit, not getting in the way, staying behind him on the Kajiva. But in the end, it wasn't to be. And as Mick will say to you, he said, well, if I'd won it that year, I might have quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, the fact that he went on to bigger things is great.
To be, I think of all the riders I've ever seen, what Mick enjoyed most was hammering the opposition into the ground. I still use the phrase in commentary decades later, doing the Doohan, fast in every session, fastest lap, lead every lap, and do not give the rest of them, the sad bleep bleep, a chance to think for 1 second they could win the race.
Well, I think if we had been able to peek inside his contract, I think that the bonuses for winning were extremely high and getting higher every year.
Right.
So, as my understanding, Mick never took anything out of his contract; he only added to it. So I think,
Yeah, that sounds.
he was a very sharp businessman as well as a very sharp rider.
That
A sharp
sounds
manager
right.
as well, didn't he? Yeah, they had it tied up, didn't they?
They did, certainly did.
Yeah. And then it was again a sad end to his career, wasn't it? With the crash, the final crash, in Erv?
Yeah.
In '99, and he knew it was enough, didn't he?
Yes, yeah, that was sad. I remember standing on the pit wall as I did all those years and seeing a silencer come over the fence
Yeah.
and looking at the stopwatch and thinking, 32 seconds, Mick would be about there. And then, of course, everybody. And then there was, of course, the photographer who must have been looking at what was happening and ran into the steel pole, and he was seriously injured as well on the track. So there was, it was like, it was a big accident. And I think, he came to that decision. And another championship, doesn't matter. He'd done plenty.
Yeah. And then went into as you say, to being an extremely successful businessman,
Yeah.
applying the same sort of ruthlessness as he did in his racing career, one understands.
I would
He
think.
lost that edge, though, didn't he, Jerry? He's a really nice guy to be around now.
Look, when you saw Mick at Christmas time between the seasons, he was a different bloke.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He knew he had a fixed window of opportunity to gain as much as he could out of the time he was in Grand Prix racing.
Yeah.
And to me, he destroyed the opposition as he walked through the paddock.
Yes.
Yes. He would walk to the garage or take his scooter to the garage. I doubt whether he acknowledged many other riders. I know he had a good relationship with Neil Mackenzie, but
Yes.
for the rest of them, they were just there to be burnt up.
Yeah.
And, it was the way to go.
And then Honda were on the phone again. Wow.
We've got another young'un here for you.
Yeah, my golly. Did you realise what you were taking on and what was going to happen?
Well, actually, I got the sack at the end of 98. Essentially, Mick Doohan was going to be running a team with, was it end of 99? Sorry, end of 99.
Yeah.
They're going to be running a team under Shell sponsorship, I believe, and Mick was going to be managing it. And Valentino Rossi was going to be the rider, and I'd be working for Mick Doohan, and Mick would then decide how much he was going to pay me. And Alex Briggs was given the same message, and I think Dickie Smart was too,
Right.
because they still had Okada and Creville, who just won the championship. So they were thinking transition or whatever they were thinking. So anyway, when the Mick Doohan team didn't come along, and I had Alex Briggs ring me up and say, JB, what about a job? I said, well, you were signed up and the deal hasn't come, but leave it with me. And I got on to Japan, and I'd figured in my own mind that they'd signed Valentino Rossi and they still had nobody to run him. And most logically, it was going to be us. So, these boys all had mortgages and young families and what have you. So suddenly there was the extra job of actually putting together a team and a truck and all the stuff for Valentino Rossi, which took pretty much half a season to get up to speed. Every time we went back to Belgium, the truck was going off to continue its fit out and what have you. But they wouldn't even let us be in the main workshop in Belgium. We were out the back, but we found a phone line that worked. So we connected into the internet, and it's very early days, and we had a better office and a better workshop than the main team.
What was your first impression of Valentino?
Extremely clever. Yeah. And always said we can thank Aprilia and his parents for delivering somebody as calm, quiet, and level-headed.
Mm-hmm.
He'd been well educated on the 125s at Aprilia, transferring to the 250s. And I said to my team, the only way this is going to get messed up when he came to the 500s is if we mess it up. So it's up to us to make sure that we give him everything he wants. Mm-hmm. And if yellow makes him happy, make sure if you buy it, it's in yellow. Simple things,
Yes.
Having the right people there, Briggsy, Bernard, Dickey, Gary Coleman, our own workshop separate from the Creville and Okada. What was it at that time? Ukawa, I can't remember, one of those guys, probably Ukawa. But anyway, we got on with the job, and it was chaos in the garage in 2000 for the factory team. So they were,
Yes.
we were a private team out the back with a factory bike.
Yeah. The thing I remember about it best, Nasta Azura, were the sponsors. And we had many a good Friday night in the hospitality unit where Australians like pouring the beer. I remember that more than anything.
Yeah, well, going back to the Wayne Gardner days in the workshop, he was sponsored by Swan Beer.
Swan, he was, yeah, that's right.
And the motocross boys were sponsored by a Belgian ice cream company, so we were able to do good deals across the workshop. Eric Gabors, I think, was sponsored by one of the bigger ice cream companies, and we'd get pallets of 24 bottles. A slab of beer was every sort of month or 6 weeks. But certainly the Nastro Azzurro and working with the Italians, was fantastic. The Italian press, everybody was really behind Valentino and the change.
Yeah.
But, I do have one regret that I didn't realise Valentino had said that I was obligatory to his contract. And had I known that, I would have asked for more money.
And more beer.
Yes.
Yeah, and he, like everybody, took time to settle. I think that first win came at the British Grand Prix, Donington Park.
Yeah. We were number 4 on the pecking order, so they did have the 2 Japanese riders and Creville. And when we tested in Phillip Island, we got new cylinders on the bike. And Valentino was sharp enough, and I didn't pick it up. He said it's not good in the middle, and I just thought it was tuning. And he crashed at Siberia in Phillip Island. Then he crashed in South Africa, remember?
Yeah,
and he crashed again in Malaysia, I think. And then we went on to Japan. But they didn't have enough of the old style cylinder to feed them to us, and we didn't get them till Suzuka. And he was on the bottom of the pole by then because he's, mentally he's returning to Italy or to Europe behind Caparossi and behind Biaggi, and it wasn't good enough. But once we got on song, the results started to improve, and we still finished second in the championship in the end. Kenny Roberts, of course, won it, but we not had that pecking order at the beginning, and we'd been number 1 or number 2, we wouldn't have had those issues. But when Creville and Co had tested those cylinders before, and it's always been a bugbear of mine. At the end of the season, when you go testing, you can believe very little of what the rider says because all they want to do is get home and go for a holiday. Yeah. So, when they go testing at Valencia, it's not worth the paper it's printed on, in my opinion, because so much of the fine stuff, these guys they've had enough, particularly now after 40 odd something races in a season, they must be dead on their feet.
And Valentino, the question I'm sure you're asked every day, what was it like working with him and everything that surrounded him? And I mean, it was an incredible time, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, in 13 years together, he never raised his voice once. No. He a lot of those times where we'd turn a sow's ear into a purse on a Sunday morning. He'd been dragged from pillar to post the night before by on both Friday night by the press, and we didn't get to have the meeting that we should have had. And when we have the long meeting, it all drops into place, and suddenly we go from qualifying 12th, do the warm up, and he goes pole position with a full tank of fuel, but we're still starting from 12th position. Yeah. So, we were never out of it, but the demand on him because of how hugely popular he was a distraction and sometimes inhibited, I think, how quickly we could have got the bike set up for him.
Yeah.
Yes, and I can see his media, the rounds of media he had to do in the after practice would have seriously restricted your consultancy time.
Yeah, it wasn't a help, but the sport is bigger than that, and to popularise the sport, to get it out there, Valentino was the medium which I think we had to seize on as an industry.
Sure.
And I mean, it was always rumoured, and you can tell us if it was true or not, you had to go and wake him up in the morning to get him ready for practice and on a Friday and a Saturday. Is that true? You'd go and bang on his door because once he was a bit late?
Every morning I would go and wake him up. Initially, it started because in 2000 in Barcelona, it was raining on the third session of practice on the Saturday morning, and he didn't come to the garage. And I just assumed that he's looked out, it's raining. Mick did it sometimes. I'm not going out. And Graziano said to me, "Well, where's Valentino?" And I said, "I don't know, I just assumed he didn't want to come down." And that's from that point on, he'd always had somebody at Aprilia waking him up. So it became my job to go down, wake him up, have a 15-minute discussion about setup. And so it gave me another opportunity to sort of lay out what we'd be doing in the program for the day. So it did have its positives.
Is it true he asked for somebody a little more gentle to wake him up? I remember that story doing the rounds.
Yeah, well, I think I went in and woke him up like you would at a boarding house. And of course, he's a quiet sort of bloke who's very calm. And I had to sort of correct that. And in the end, I just sort of go in and sit down and shuffle around a bit, and he'd get out of from his bedroom as his motorhome's got bigger and what have you.
Yeah.
But, sometimes there could be 5, 6 or 7 blokes in his motorhome snoring their heads off.
Amazing times with Honda, with 2 strokes, and then the 4 strokes came along. That must have been a massive change in every way for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've always looked at the motorcycle as just being a tool for the rider to achieve his dreams. So I wasn't fussed that we were going to 4-stroke. A lot of things changed. We didn't do our own engine work, for example, or the engines got done. So it wasn't like you're pulling stuff apart after practices or overnight. And I'd worked on the 4-strokes and the Honda 4-strokes during the 8-hour races I'd done with Wayne and Mick. So I'd seen the technology and how keen Honda was on producing winning 4-strokes. Didn't matter what class they ran them in. And to see the Honda, the V5, when Yoshimura took me up to Tokyo and took me into the special room and showed me the engine, and nobody had seen it. He it was like, gee, they trusted me a bit, just it's going to be a 5-cylinder and don't tell anybody. And it was massive, and we saw what it did in those years, those 2 or 3 years, and yeah.
Nick, we have 10 minutes.
Rightio. Okay, so we better push on. Obviously, then great success with Honda with the 4-stroke, and then the move to Yamaha. But he was only going to go with you and the team behind him, and it was an amazing move, and the result was staggering.
Yeah, it was amazing. I knew when I went that I was burning any bridges I had to go back to Honda. That was never going to happen. So if it wasn't a success, it was probably come home and work on the roads or something. But I remember in Motegi when I hadn't committed to going with him, and he'd handed back his Honda contract unsigned, and I went into his cabin where he was preparing for the warm up. It was, and for some reason I just blurted out, "If it makes any difference, I'll come with you." And he and Uccio were just ecstatic. That was the best thing ever. And I walked into the garage and I said to the boys, "I'm going to Yamaha." And Briggsy said, "Well, if you're going, I'm coming too. I'll learn more over there than I will here." And then we had we had to decide who was going to go, because we needed to hang on to one guy at Yamaha, which was Brent Stevens, who had experience there with Carlos Checker and beyond. So Brent was going to be there, and so I took 3 guys to the clandestine meetings in Phillip Island at the Arthur Phillip Motel on the right as you go in, and
I know,
met with the hierarchy from Yamaha, and pretty much told them that, there's no way I can, on my own, fix their problems, but ignore Valentino Rossi at your peril. Listen to what he says and deliver what he asks for. And they did exactly that. And with Bernard, Alex, Gary Coleman, and Brent Stevens, unfortunately, we had to leave Dickie Smart behind.
Mm-hmm.
But Dick's a great mate of mine and still is, and that's pretty tough to do.
I bet.
But Yamaha delivered everything they said they would at the time. We got the throttle bodies changed to a better system for a Phillip Island test in February. Everything had to be rushed. Everything was, they gave 200% to get that bike ready for the first race in South Africa, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I remember looking at the bike in pit lane, and it seemed to be still on its nose. The wheel was as far back as you could get it in the swinging arm.
Yeah. When we tested it first in Sepang in January, because Honda wouldn't let us test in December with Valentino's contract, Valentino came to me and said, "Jerry, I'm locking the front brake," and I said, "Oh, that's great." And he looked at me in a strange way, and there was, 20 people all around him. I said, "The only thing that's common on this bike to the Honda is the Brembo brakes." And essentially the centre of gravity of the bike was too low. So we raised the bike 20 millimetres, and the Japanese were sucking their teeth and everything else. And Valentino said, "That's a lot better, but I'm not locking the brake anymore, because instead of pushing with the mass was compressing onto the front tyre, transferring onto the front tyre." But Yamaha, being a brilliant chassis company, when we turn up for the next test, they'd added 20 or 30 millimetres to the swing arm to keep that triangle that they believed is so important, as it should be. And the bike worked extremely well. It was great. And we were able to move forward. Didn't hurt us. We were relying there clearly on Yamaha's experience and how they believed the chassis should be from years and years and years of development. And from that point on, we were able to push on. The only issue was when we got to the rain in Jerez, where the power delivery of the engine wasn't sort of linear to the throttle. But we learned in Welcome how good the bike was in the dry, but we also learned how bad it was in the wet. And I knew the championship could go down to Phillip Island in the rain, so we tested as much wet as we could all year, but it never rained again in a race. So we were very lucky. And by 2005, we were in mid-2004, I was worried that Yamaha was spending too much time on developing the 2005 bike, and we're going to forget the 2004 when we were still in a chance to win the championship from Seto. So that was a worry. And anyway, as it turned out, we were able to win the championship in Phillip Island, which was wonderful.
Would have pleased you, I assume.
Well, I still have memories of the mechanics at the end of the race, all sitting down against the mechanics' toolboxes along the the garage wall.
Yeah.
And they all had a look of exhaustion on them. It was like absolute relief that it was all over, because we were racing on Sunday, testing on Monday, racing on Sunday, testing on Monday. Every time after the race, we'd test to make sure we could make that bike better. And of course, they've banned all that now. So, you can't fix your problems. You can't change stuff, cowlings and engines. You're hamstrung with a MotoGP bike today.
Yes. Basically, there is nothing you can do through the season, is there, of significance?
Not enough, no. I mean, you make a mistake at the beginning, you find out 5 races into the season it's no good. You're stuck with it till the end of the year, and that's not how racing should be.
Agreed.
Racing is about delivering the best product and bringing it to the thing. But we're not in the business of racing anymore. We're in the business of selling to a television audience. So, that's what MotoGP is all about.
And then the Ducati years, which must have been pretty tough. 2 years, was it, with Ducati?
2 years, but look where they are now.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
clearly,
Yes.
you know, they could have bundled on for years had they not had those 2 years of absolute disaster with essentially the best rider in the world. And I think then they restructured, and those years after Valentino left with Andrea Dovizioso and Iannone, the bike progressed in a sensible way.
Mm.
People were lovely at Ducati, loved all of them. They were really great people. But you know, there were things that, you know, they would be doing a lot better now than they were doing then. And you know, the bike wasn't good enough, but
Mm.
uh, you know, that it's part of motorcycle racing history now. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have some admiration of, I assume, for Gigi Dall'Igna and what he's done over.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you needed somebody there who had the horsepower to do exactly what they've done, and um, you know, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
We couldn't do much more. Um, you know, we had Nicky Hayden riding well on the other side of the garage, but inevitably they'd be seventh and eighth, both of them.
Yes.
We'd be turning the bike upside down from every practice session and making no improvement. So clearly, I mean, the engine was a car engine. You know, it was designed for nothing but power.
Yeah.
You know, at Yamaha, you would have an engine engineer talking to the rider and drawing graphs about how you feel and what you do with the throttle, where is the engine. And at Ducati, it was just flat out, and electronics will control it. Well, electronics can't control it, you know, and they learned that they have to build something that was better all round, and they've certainly done that.
Then it was back to Yamaha, and
Nick, we are we've got about a minute, mate. The 2 minute warning did not come up. I apologise.
okay, yeah. So bit of a Jerry, a bit of a shabby ending. It looked from the outside when that day in Valencia. How did you feel?
Yeah, look, yeah, you might say that, but I was ready to finish. I was 60 years of age. To me, winning another championship didn't make much difference. I mean, 14 or 15, did it make any difference? You know,
Yeah.
I'd already expressed to Valentino that I wasn't going to sign any more multi-year contracts.
Yeah.
And he said, and essentially he thought about it, thought if he's going to change now. And I'd read enough sporting biographies to know that tennis players change the coach in the last couple of years. You get a spike, but you don't necessarily get back to where you were.
Mhm.
I feel he was.
Wow. Jerry, thank you so much. I tell you what, I just hope everybody out there, and from what we've seen from the first one we did with Jerry Julian, everybody loved it. Wow, I think we enjoyed it as much as people watching and listening, and as much as Jerry has doing it. Absolutely fantastic. What an insight.
And typical Burgess, absolutely getting to the point with unerring accuracy and dealing with it in like one sentence. You know, that's how he engineered motorcycles.
Yeah, that's right. Keep it simple and go straight to the truth. No, don't fluff about with that.
I love the stuff about the intelligent rider, talks about the worst thing first.
Yeah, and the Mick thing. Be good if we had some brakes on this thing.
Anytime you like. Yeah.
Anytime. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So that, Julian, would you believe, is our 35th racing together. Yeah, I mean, which is amazing. And it's gaining more and more popularity, but we want more, don't we, Jules?
Well, yes, we appreciate everybody who, I don't know whether you tune into a podcast or you download it, but if you subscribe to whatever your preferred source is, it helps us. It helps the Racing Back podcast climb up the algorithms and climb up the search engine. So your help there would be appreciated.
So there we go. Number 35. I got it. We love doing it, and we love doing it, and we really, really, of course, want to continue doing it.
And we hope Jerry will come back.
I have a feeling Jerry will come back because I think
I mean,
he's been looking at the figures.
Yes, yes. I mean, perhaps what we need for the next Jerry Burgess one, Nick, is we'll stick to some very narrow point in history, not this generic "how was Valentino to work with" stuff.
Yeah.
But what about? I know I have a question here from Mr. D. Noyes of Southern California.
About 8 pages of a question.
Yes, suggesting that we asked Jerry about when things were getting. The pit was a bit. How shall I put this? There was a wall down the middle. This was the Crivier Doohan.
Of course, yeah.
And Jerry
later,
was
the Rossi Lorenzo.
Yeah. And maybe we should home in on some stuff like that.
Dead right, yeah.
And get Jerry to talk in detail. Let us know what you think.
Much so. Yeah, we got lots of guests lined up, and we're looking forward to the new year. But please support us; it's really, really important, especially to Richie, who has to be obeyed, who's just had a major knee operation and has been producing this program through a cloud of morphine, I believe.
Yes, which may explain a few things.
Yeah, and we'd like to thank him very, very much indeed. So there we are, Jules. Another one done and dusted. And I think all we can say is, Jerry Burgess, thank you so much.